Okay, so quite a few bits of information have come out in the last couple of days about the Alien franchise and some updates that I wanted to share with you guys. The first is going to be some comments by Ridley Scott that I'll mention here. And then also today, we got the drop of the full-length trailer for the Alien Earth TV series that is going to start in August. And recently, I've been trying very hard to not watch movie trailers or trailers at all so I can go into things as blind as possible. But when it comes to a series that's as near and dear to my heart as Alien, it's really hard to ignore a trailer that's floating out there for 2 months before the show starts. So yeah, I watched it and I'm going to comment on it. So first though, let's go over to these comments by Ridley Scott and take this with a grain of salt because Ridley Scott has said a lot of things in interviews and sometimes contradicts himself and then goes back on what he said before, changes things around. So don't take it as the gospel, just take it as where his headspace is at the moment. But I do love how off the cuff and straightforward Ridley Scott can be. Pretty much the same with John Carpenter. Whenever they're interviewed, like in the last 10 to 20 years, they just tell it how it is. They don't care how it sounds. They're just going to tell you the truth. They're not trying to censor themselves for any kind of PR nonsense. They just tell you exactly how they're feeling, and I appreciate that about these two guys. But when it comes to Alien, obviously Ridley Scott was the director of the original film, and he's made a lot of great classic films since then, one of which is Kingdom of Heaven, which just had a new 4K release that I hope I can pick up at a decent price at some point in the future. But this is why he was being interviewed. They were talking about Kingdom of Heaven, and they also mentioned Alien and where he is with the franchise at this point in time. So I'm going to read to you some of the quotes that he said. And this is after he was asked about his involvement in the Alien series, and he says that I've done enough when it comes to the Alien franchise. Started 46 years ago, and last year he was a producer on Alien Romulus, and he was also heavily within the promotion for that movie too. Him and Fede Alvarez did interviews together, and he was quite involved. And it didn't seem like it was reluctantly, but who knows behind the scenes. But he was very adamant in helping promote Alien Romulus. But anyways, he's also going to be a producer on Alien Earth. And he summed it up to where he says, where it's going now, I think I've done enough, and I just hope that it goes further. And then he was talking about the sequels, and he says, I think I felt it was dead-ended after 4, which would have been Alien Resurrection. I think mine was pretty damn good, and I think Jim's was good, and I have to say the rest were not very good. I thought, fuck it, that's the end of the franchise, which should be as important as bloody Star Trek or Star Wars, which, hey, to me it is. And to many people it is, I think. But he was talking about, Star Wars, how seminal it was, how important it was to film at the time, its inspiration, and he always felt like Alien should be on that level. And once again, I agree, and I think it is, but, opinions may vary. But he says he was often offered Alien a year after Star Wars and thought, I was the 5th fucking choice. I love that. Why'd you offer Robert Altman Alien? God only knows. Altman, are you kidding? I'm not going to do this. And I went, are you kidding? I have to do this because it borders and verges on heavy metal. Hell yeah. So that's where I went, and that's where it died. So interesting on him kind of reflecting back to that era of the late 70s. And at the time, I believe Alien was only his second movie, so it makes sense that he was the 5th choice. But again, thank God he was chosen. Then he says, a number of years later, I was going to resurrect this and wrote Prometheus from scratch, which I don't think that's entirely true. There were definitely other writers on Prometheus, but whatever. David Lindelof and I sat and hammered out Prometheus, Scott said, on the reviving the franchise in 2012 after a 15-year hiatus. It was very present and very welcome. The audience really wanted more. Well, I did. A lot of people hated Prometheus when it came out, but I'm a Prometheus defender to the day that I die. I love that movie. I won't get into it here, but I'm just saying, if you're a Prometheus fan and you're watching this video, you're in good company. That's all I'm going to say. And then he says that it needed to fly, so no one was coming for it, and once again, I made Alien Covenant, and that worked too. Where it's going now, I think I've done enough, and I just hope that it goes farther. So it seems to be with these comments that he is done with his direct involvement in the Alien series. Now, coming on as a producer, that could mean so many things. It could literally just boil down to his name in the credits, and he didn't really do anything else, to contribute after that. producer, executive producer credits can mean a lot of different things. But why this article is going around and this interview is being talked about is because notoriously Ridley Scott was working on these prequel movies to the original Alien, with Prometheus, which completely, I think, stands on its own and works perfectly fine as its own movie. And it was a creative, interesting diversion from the original formula that I really appreciate. Then Alien Covenant came around, and it was sort of a blend. It was like a Prometheus sequel, but then also giving the audience what they wanted with the alien and, adding in the xenomorph and everything like that. So it was kind of like a blend of the two coming together, and ends on a massive cliffhanger with David on the ship having all of the alien embryos going God knows where. And so there was always a missing piece of the puzzle that would lead to the beginning of Alien. And even if it didn't lead into Alien directly, there still is the finale of David's character and David's story arc. Where is he going to go with that Covenant ship? Now there is this kind of loose end of David just sort of being out there on a ship filled with alien embryos, and who knows whatever happened to him. And I think a lot of people that were a fan of the Ridley Scott versions of Alien, of the original Prometheus and Covenant, we really wanted to see a conclusion to that story. We wanted to see Michael Fassbender back, and it seems like that's not going to happen, especially with the success of Alien Romulus and Fede Alvarez taking it into a different direction and, a completely different time period. But we are going to get another Alien movie that is essentially a sequel to that, continuation of that in some way, shape, or form. So it seems unlikely we will ever get a conclusion to this prequel era with David's storyline. And I find David to be pretty much, the most compelling character in almost all of the Alien mythos. But also, Ridley Scott is extremely old, and I'm not saying, I'm not trying to wish any kind of negativity here, but if he's going to make another Alien film, he's got to do it soon. It's like, we got to get the ball rolling here. Maybe he'll live to be in his hundreds, who knows, but the man is a machine. He pumps out a movie almost every 2 to 3 years and has consistently for decades. So I always wanted to see that final segment of his Alien movie, but it seems like this interview points in the direction that he's pretty much done, at least as a full creator, maybe as a producer or maybe having, some creative input. But as far as writing and directing and spearheading the entire thing, it seems like he's out. Some people will be jumping for joy about that, but me as a Prometheus and Covenant fan, I really wanted to see that final piece of the puzzle. I really wanted to see that finale of David's character arc, but who knows? But hey, as far as canon is concerned, David is still out there somewhere. So, and he's an android that doesn't age. So, he could show up at any point in time, I suppose, if they ever want to pull him out again. Now, the other big thing we need to talk about is the full trailer for Alien Earth. And I gotta say, this looks really good. This looks really, really good. I was excited for this series, very skeptically excited just because very little information was coming out about it. But in the recent months, they've been ramping up the marketing, and so we get to see a lot more here, and I love the look of this. If I didn't know this was a TV series and you told me this was a movie trailer, I would have believed you. The shots here look really, really good. I'm not going to play the trailer for you guys because I don't want copyright BS, but I'll link the trailer down below so you can watch it for yourself. I'm just going to comment on a couple of scenes and moments from it. But they got the right score. They got that alarm going off, the traditional Alien background alarm noises. I think the shots look really, really great. You don't see a ton of xenomorphs in the trailer itself. I'll show this little moment. Yeah, right there. But you do see them, and it seems like a lot of it's done with practical effects, which is amazing. And this also technically is not the first time we've seen Earth in the Alien franchise. We did see it at the end of Alien Resurrection. But, for all intents and purposes, this is the first time we're really going to be on Earth. And that's the whole idea of this show, is that it's giving us something different. But it also has, this strange spot in the timeline taking place after Covenant and before the original Alien. And there's some things that they're going to have to discuss and figure out. For example, they let you know right in the beginning of this trailer one of the story elements that is in play, where this girl, and she looks like she's sick, probably has cancer or something like that, that she is getting her consciousness placed in the body of an android, which is total sci-fi Ghost in the Shell shit going on, which I don't mind. But I do think that this series will have to explain why that's never been done again, considering we have, Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, and that's never something that's come up before. So I imagine there's some kind of taboo aspect of it. Maybe they're not even really supposed to be doing this. Maybe, I don't know exactly. And I guess that's one of the mysteries of the show, but it looks like this is our main character and she's getting her consciousness put into the body of an android. So that is something completely different. And that and the other concept that this show is bringing up shows me that this show is going to be trying to do things that the movies have never done. And I like that approach because we have seen the same traditional Alien formula many, many times. And just like with Ridley Scott doing Prometheus or Covenant, trying to expand the franchise and do something a little bit different, I'm open to the idea. I think it's strange because you have to explain why this has never been done again or before, but I'm going to allow the show the opportunity to explain that to me. Now, in the midst of that, we do get this ship crashing into the city here, and it's explained that this ship is carrying a number of alien life forms just in general. So this is not just a ship containing the facehuggers or the xenomorph or anything like that. This has other species, and we see little glimpses of them in this trailer too, which I think is a pretty cool idea. That let's say this ship was on a mission, to collect different various life forms or whatever, so that we can bring them back, research and study them. So we have at least four confirmed different alien species that are on this ship, and it seems like the facehugger got loose, probably attached to one of them, or attached to the pilots, and causes this crash. And this is awesome for a couple of reasons. One is because it gives us a look at other alien species that exist within this universe, and also gives the xenomorph an opportunity to take on characteristics of those creatures. So we're not just dealing with the creature itself, we're dealing with the potential of those creatures getting attacked and the xenomorph, assimilating to sort of attributes that they have. Because as much as I am not a fan of Alien 3, I really like the idea of the facehugger attaching to a dog and then the alien having attributes of that dog, walking on all fours, being able to run super fast, those sort of things. So if it gets on a different alien species, who knows what potential we could have for various monsters in the show. So it looks like a team is sent out to investigate, along with our main character here, I'm assuming, whose consciousness is now in the body of an android. So that'll give her some strength increases here, and also not make her a victim of a facehugger if they do attack. But interesting to see what kind of ramifications could come from this. We see other horror elements here, like these are containers having the other alien species, and this little egg here is very different from anything that we've seen before, and I'm wondering exactly if this is sort of like Alien Romulus showed us that cocoon stage where the full-size xenomorph finally hatched. I'm wondering if this is sort of similar to that, but from a different species. I don't know. The shots look good, though. A lot of wide shots, a lot of stuff happening outdoors, which I like. Experimenting on a sheep, because you got to. Then there is a shot of this little eyeball creature, which has got to be another one of the aliens that was on board the ship. I don't know what it can do, but it's probably a lot more dangerous than it looks. It looks small we get like a half a second shot of it in the trailer. It looks really small, but we know that size does not matter when it comes to this universe. Really good shot of the xenomorph here crawling on the top of the space station. Love that. Love that. CGI looks pretty good. I mean, like I said, it's like a 2-second shot, so it's hard to really tell, but they are definitely using practical effects here, as you can tell. At least this looks practical to me. I could be completely wrong, but I think this looks pretty good. You got a lot of the drool coming out here, which is how I like my xenomorphs, as wet and drippy and drooly as possible. The drippier, the better. So yeah, Alien Earth. I am excited, and it drops August, what's the release date here? August 12th. August 12th. So about 2 months away. I will probably at least review the first episode on the channel, and it may turn out to be one of those shows where I review every episode. I don't necessarily like to be an episodic reviewer kind of channel, but if Alien Earth turns out to be as good as it's looking, as good as it promises to be, then you might see me week to week as this show comes out. So that's going to be in the future in August. But until then, let me know what you guys think about these updates. Do you like the trailer for Alien Earth? Do you think it looks good, or are you guys completely turned off by it? Not your thing? And along with the Ridley Scott comments, do you think he's being honest? Like, do you think he's actually out for good? Will we ever get that final installment to continue David's storyline, or am I just going to be left with the end of Alien Covenant for the rest of my life, wondering what could have been? Probably. But who knows? I mean, hey, anything can happen. Let me know what you guys think down below. Thanks as always for watching, guys. Give the video a thumbs up and a comment. Help it out in the algorithm. If you want to support the channel on a deeper level, I do have Patreon channel memberships and all the social media links where you can follow me down below. Other than that, guys, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time.